Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for UFC fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and today I'll be getting you ready for the upcoming UFC fights. Here at Fighting Stats, we have exclusive UFC stats, not available anywhere else, giving us a huge edge over the sportsbooks that help us make money long term. Here at Fighting Stats, we also track how often they throw that left jab or that right hook from southpaw, how often they're moving back, or how much time is spent in side control versus full mount. We have all of that information, but that's not it. We pair that with our tape study here. We're going to go through the fights. We're going to watch for fighters' strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies to help you get prepared for the upcoming UFC fights. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we are breaking down the UFC 311 main event between champion Islam Makhachev and challenger Arman Tsarukyan. Now, again, this is a rematch. Arman Tsarukyan fought Islam in his UFC debut. I did break that fight down. That fight was very close. So now Arman Tsarukyan has made his way to the top, and he fights for the title here at UFC 311. Let's get into the breakdown. I'll give you my best bets and predictions on how I think the fight's going to go after this. But first, we're going to start with our Fighting Stats tail of the tape here. Islam Makhachev is going to be on the blue side. Is Arman Tsarukyan here going to be on the red side? So Islam Makhachev, 14-1 in the UFC, 14% of his wins coming from KO, half of his wins coming from submission, and 36% of them coming from a decision there. Does have one KO loss there as well. And then on the Arman Tsarukyan, 9-2 in the UFC, 44% of his wins coming from KO, 56% coming from decision, 0 wins by submission. Kind of surprising how good he is in grappling. He does have 2 UFC losses, both of them coming from decision there as well. And in terms of the tail of the tape, Islam's going to be 3 inches taller, but Arman Tsarukyan is surprisingly going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Islam's going to be fighting in southpaw, and Arman Tsarukyan is going to be in orthodox here. So let's get into the offensive striking here from Islam. Islam's going to mix it up here. You can see here 58% of Islam's strikes landed going to be at a distance, 18% in the clinch, and 24% of the strikes landed within the ground there. In terms of target accuracy there, or target breakdown, Islam going to the head at 83% clip, going to the body at 15% clip, and then not a huge leg kicker, only 3% leg target there. In terms of accuracy, 52% head strike accuracy, pretty good. Considering 91% body strike accuracy and 83% leg kick accuracy. And then in terms of strikes thrown by round, pretty consistent here, averaging 16 strikes thrown in round 1, 24 in 2, 16 in round 3, 21 in 4, and 25 in round 5 there. You can see 9, 14, 12, 10, and 13 in terms of strikes landed. So around 10 to 15 strikes landed on average per round for Islam Makhachev. He does have 3 knockdowns, 1 coming in round 1, 1 in round 2, and 1 in round 3. So keep that a note there as well. And again, not a huge leg kicker there, mostly going to the head there, landing around 6-10 and 9-9 head strikes there. Islam Makhachev is coming off of that win there against Dustin Poirier, finishing Poirier into the 5th round by submission, then coming off of back-to-back finishes of Alexander Volkanovski. So pretty impressive run there from Islam Makhachev. Again, we talked about lack of leg kicks. Don't really know if that really plays a difference here in this fight there, but overall striking accuracy, 60% striking accuracy, 58% at a distance. I did want to highlight some of the striking there because I thought that the Poirier showing looked very improved in terms of his striking. Again, looks like significant strikes landed percentage-wise, 66 in round 1, 56 in round 2, and then up to 75 in round number 3, 45 in round 4, and 54 into round 5. So decent striking numbers here, landing at a distance, 17 strikes in round 2, 15 in round 3, 18 in round 4, and 17 in round 5. I thought his striking looked very much improved against a striker in Dustin Poirier there. Let's move on to the defensive striking here for Islam Makhachev. 70% of the strikes landed going to be at a distance, 22% in the clinch, and 7% on the ground. Targets against, so when he does fight, 70% of the strikes landed towards the head, 22% towards the body, 8% towards the legs. Head strike defense, pretty good actually here at 28% head strike defense. Again, his head strike accuracy was up over 50%, so pretty good defensive striking deltas there. 59% body strike defense and 73% leg strike defense. On average, only absorbing 5 strikes landed in round number 1, 8 in round number 2, 6 in round number 3, and then it does go up into rounds 4 and 5 at 11 in round 4 and 16 in round number 5 there. So does look like into the later rounds he can be susceptible to a little bit of volume there. He has been knocked down once in round number 1 and again once in round number 5. That was against Volkanovski, I believe. And then just taking a look at the defensive striking numbers, yeah, pretty good striking numbers against Dustin Poirier, who is pretty much an elite striker there. Significant strikes landed for Poirier, only 20% in round number 1, 41 in rounds 2 and 3. 37 in round number 4 and 47% in round number 5. So it was Makhachev landing more significant strike, more at a higher clip in terms of significant strike accuracy. Pretty impressive stuff considering Islam Makhachev really known for his grappling, right? Let's move over to the Arman Tsarukyan side there. 63% of his strikes going to be landing at a distance, 8% in the clinch, and 29 strikes landed on the ground. He does work a lot of ground and pound there for Arman Tsarukyan. 79% targets towards the head, 15 towards the body, and 7% towards the legs. A little bit more of a leg kicker than Islam, but not by much. Head strike accuracy at 41%, head strike accuracy, 75% body strike, and 85% leg kick accuracy. In terms of average strikes thrown and landed by round, a little bit higher for the Arman side, landing about 14, 19, and 21 in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then in rounds 4, 16, and then rounds 5 is 23. So definitely has the volume advantage there for Arman in terms of output. Does have 2 knockdowns, one coming in round number 1 and one coming in round number 4. Round 1 was against Dariush, and round 4 was against Mateus Gamrot. Again, we talked about the leg kicks there. He does throw in, so 61 in total leg kicks landed in his UFC career. That could be a difference maker here because, again, Islam doesn't really kick too much. And then the distance thrown there, he did fight Charles Oliveira. Significant strike accuracy, 56% in round 1, 61 in round 2, and 58 in round 3. So not bad significant strike numbers there as well. In terms of the defensive striking here for Arman Tsarukyan, 72% of the strikes landed against at a distance, 20% in the clinch, and 5% or 9% on the ground. Strikes absorbed, 76% of the strikes absorbed towards the head. In terms of defensive striking accuracy, 38% head strike defense, 70% body strike defense, and 73% leg kick defense here. And something to be to sort of notice here is the strikes absorbed by round definitely goes up there. So on average, absorbs 6 strikes in round number 1, but then it only goes up there from there. So rounds 2 and 3 averaging 9 strikes absorbed, and rounds 4 and 5 is 13 and 20 strikes. So definitely able to land more on Arman Tsarukyan as the fight goes on there. Worth noting again, he has not been knocked down in his UFC career, so 0 knockdowns against. So pretty good chin there. We did see Charles Oliveira land a clean right hand on Arman. Arman looked a little bit dazed, but he was able to recover, not get knocked down. So the biggest thing in this fight will be the grappling. I think there's going to be a lot of scrambling. So the grappling numbers here will really paint a story here. On average, Islam Makhachev, pretty high-level grappler, right? Averaging 1.5 takedowns attempted in rounds 1 and 2, 1.8 in rounds 3, and then up to 3 and attempts in rounds 4 and 5. So on average, he's getting at least 1 takedown a round, 1 in round 1.7 in round 2, 1.3 in round 3, and then tails off a little bit in rounds 4 and 5. That's normally because Islam's probably getting the takedown and keeping the guys down. Very rarely to see Islam landing 5 or 6 takedowns, meaning that they're getting up from under Islam there. Does have 0.3 reversals, average sub attempts, so he does average quite a few sub attempts per round. 0.4 in round 1, 0.2 in round 2, and then 0.3 in rounds 3 and 4, up to 0.5. So every round it looks like he's attempting a submission attempt there, and then very good control numbers here. So going into the fights there, Dustin Poirier able to control Poirier for extended periods of time there in round 1, 263 seconds of control. Round 2 was a little bit harder, wasn't able to get him down, only 49 seconds of control. control. Rounds 3 and 4, 130 and 148. So those numbers are going to be a little bit high. Again, Poirier is not really a grappler, right, in that regard. So let's go over, actually, let's take a look at the Arman Tsarukyan numbers here. And this is back in 2019, so over 5 years ago here. Arman Tsarukyan, Islam Makhachev goes 1 for 4 in takedowns in round 1, 1 for 3 in takedowns in round 2, and 2 of 2 in takedowns in round number 3, getting 103 seconds of control in round number 1, 112 seconds of control in round number 2, and 151 seconds of control in round number 3. I think that was the biggest story in that fight, was just the amount of control time. And then we'll take a look on the defensive side, see if Arman had any numbers there. So, defensive grappling, we don't really see many people get down Islam Makhachev. Let's take a look at numbers at a high level here. So Islam Makhachev has seen 22 takedowns against in his UFC career. Only 2 have been successful. One of them was against Thiago Moises, and one of them was against Arman Tsarukyan in round number 1. So let's take a look at that fight here. Arman Tsarukyan going 1 of 7 in takedowns in round number 1, 0-2 in takedowns in round number 2, and 0-3 in takedowns in round number 3. Only 86 seconds of control in round number 1, 21 in round number 2, and 0 in round number 3. So the control seconds, definitely the biggest story in that fight, pretty much contributing to why Islam ended up winning that fight here. So is Arman Tsarukyan offensive grappling. He a high-level grappler as well. Look at this. He attempts 3.2 takedowns attempted in round number 1, 2.8 in round number 2, and 2.5 in round number 3. Dropped off in round number 4, does not attempt a takedown in round number 4, and then goes up to 1 takedown attempted in round number 5 there. So does not have any takedowns in successful in rounds 4 and 5 in his UFC career. And then we talked about the defensive striking numbers for Arman Tsarukyan as well. So keep that in mind there. It sounds like Islam Makhachev is going to have some advantages into the later rounds there, so keep that in mind. And then let's take a look at sort of who Arman has fought there, right? Charles Oliveira, not really good defensive wrestling, I want to say. Beneil Dariush, okay. That one finished early. Joaquim Silva, Demir Ismagulov, Mateus Gamrot, he ended up losing. I believe Joel Alvarez, Matt Frivola, Davi Ramos. So, this is worth noting here. The Arman Tsarukyan fights Davi Ramos, actually attempts 5 takedowns in that fight, got Davi Ramos down. So it was a level of confidence that I haven't really seen. So he wasn't afraid to attempt takedowns on on Islam Makhachev, not afraid to attempt takedowns on Davi Ramos. Davi Ramos, high-level grappler, not afraid to take down Charles Oliveira. So it's not like he's going to be dissuaded from attacking takedowns, just whether or not he'll get it in this fight there. So just goes to show you the level of confidence that Arman has in his grappling there. In terms of defensive grappling, just like Islam, not a lot of people wanting to take down Arman Tsarukyan, not a lot of success there. So the last person that really shot on Arman was Mateus Gamrot. Looks like he has about 21 takedowns attempted in that fight, getting Arman Tsarukyan down 6 times in that fight, and again losing a decision in that one. So kind of really struggling against grapplers here against Mateus Gamrot, and again against Islam Makhachev. Makhachev going 4 for 9 in takedowns. Nobody else really able to get him down other than Gamrot and Makhachev. So worth noting there. So let's quickly move over to our fighting stats time breakdown. So we break down how often the fight goes. So here you can see that 40% of Islam Makhachev's time fights was spent on the ground, 41% standing. So almost 50-50 in terms of fighting and standing there. When it does hit the ground, when he's on top, 48% of the time Islam Makhachev's in back mount, 19% of the time he was in full guard, 14% he was in half guard, and 17% he was in side control. Not a lot of time in full mount there. And then we rarely see Islam Makhachev on bottom, but when he was, it was 74% on bottom there. I think that was against Volkanovski. On the Tsarukyan side, similar numbers here. 48% of his fight time spent standing, 38% of that was on the ground. When Tsarukyan is on top, it looks like 46% of that was in full guard, 36% of that was in back mount there. He really struggled against Charles Oliveira to pass the guard, spent most of that time in full guard there. And then when Arman is on bottom there, you can see 53% of the time he was in back mount, 29% of the time he was in full mount. So he did give up some numbers there, and that doesn't really happen too often, but he did get mounted there against Makhachev in that first fight after the trip, and then he actually got mounted against Charles Oliveira. Didn't come from a takedown, but Charles Oliveira looking for the guillotine ended up in top in mount, but Arman able to reverse that and get out of that. Moving over to our fighting stats striking tendencies here. So Islam Makhachev here, see on the blue, he has an 81% single strike rate. So a lot of single strikes there from Islam. 1-2 rate of only 2%, a jab of 18%. He does stand southpaw, so keep that in mind. So his favorite strike is that right hook, the three that he throws 27% of the time. He landed on Poirier a couple of times. He went double right hook that he threw there. Then he goes at 18% is the single jab, 14% is the single cross, and then 9% of the time he does like that rear kick as well. He goes rear high kick at 9% and rear low kick at 5%. Moving over to the Arman side, 63% single strike rate, so more combos coming out of the Arman Tsarukyan side. 38% kick rate, so he does like that lead high kick from Arman Tsarukyan from Orthodox, so keep that in mind. His favorite strike is that left hook, the three as well, but it's coming from Orthodox, so it's going to be that left hook. And then 15% is that jab. He does like look for the rear low kick at 9% of the time, and the lead high kick at 7% of the time. I likes to throw a 1-1-2 as well at 5%, and the lead low kick at 5%. So varying strikes from both guys there. So pretty even in terms of the numbers there. I do give a slight edge to Makhachev in terms of takedown accuracy, takedown defense, things like that. So getting into my prediction here, I did have to go back and watch the first fight all over again. Again, Islam Makhachev ended up winning that fight 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. You would think Islam dominated that one, but that was a very close fight. I thought that each round could be like a 55-45 or a 60-40 type round. Haven't really seen Islam really struggle with the grappling. And then in that fight, Arman Tsarukyan actually got mounted. He got into some bad positions, but Arman Tsarukyan able to get out of it. I think at one point he got mounted with the arm trapped as well, but able to fight out of it. Not very many people able to get up underneath Islam Makhachev, but Arman was able to do that multiple times there. But the biggest difference, I think, is the grappling of Arman. When Arman tries to get the takedowns, it's very hard to get Makhachev down. I think Makhachev's butt touched the ground maybe like for a couple of seconds at least, because he did get credited with a takedown, but very hard to hold Makhachev down. Whereas when Makhachev was on top, it's difficult to hold Arman down, but Makhachev was able to get more control time. And again, that was Arman's first fight in the UFC 2019. A lot of things have improved and a lot of things have changed. But I want to say Arman Tsarukyan obviously gotten a lot better since his UFC debut. He's mixing it in, but he's fought a lot of strikers. He did struggle there against Gamrot, which is another grappler there as well. And then he looked okay against Charles Oliveira. That one was a split decision, although I don't really think it should have been split. I thought that Arman won 29-28 in that fight there. And so this fight here, it's funny because the first fight with Makhachev was minus 300. I think the odds for this fight is probably around the same. So I think that Islam Makhachev, his striking in that last fight against Dustin Poirier looked pretty impressive. He actually won the striking battle. He landed more significant strikes. He landed at a higher accuracy there. I thought he looked pretty good in the striking battle. So if the grappling will cancel out and Islam Makhachev can stay standing, then the striking will really come into play. We talked about the volume up front for Arman, that he has a little bit more volume, in terms of strikes thrown and landed. That could be a big visual there for the judges there, just having more volume. But then we also talked about the fact that Arman Tsarukyan can absorb more damage or more strikes as the rounds go on and really doesn't attempt takedowns there. Islam Makhachev having more 5-round experience, and then Arman sort of struggling with grapplers a little bit. So my lean in this fight is going to be Islam Makhachev. I think he has all the tools to keep the fight standing if he wants it. He can dictate sort of where the fight will go. That's not going to deter an Arman from shooting. I think that it's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of scrambles. It's going to be very close. It's going to be very hard to judge. I think the live lines are going to be all over the place sort of thing. But I can see Arman Tsarukyan giving Islam, a very hard time. But I think Islam knows what he wants to do. I think he has, again, the takedown defense to sort of keep the fight standing if he wants to. I think Islam Makhachev probably wins. He's going to probably win a close decision. It's going to be one of these things where any big moment will secure the round because it's going to be back and forth. There won't be a lot of control time, I don't think, but if anybody does get the control time, it's going to be Makhachev. So I could see a case for, in terms of when two grapplers, high-level grapplers fight. Sometimes the fight takes place on the feet, and Islam has been KO'd. He does have a KO loss. We did see Arman take a big shot and normally have a chin there. So perhaps Arman Tsarukyan can land something big, maybe a lead head kick or something like that. But I think those chances are pretty low there. I'm going to pick Islam Makhachev to win, retain the belt, but I do think it's going to be a very high-level fight. Very looking forward to this one. I do think that there's some opportunities for betting. So if I do end up placing a bet on this fight, I'll let you know. I'll post it over to patreon.com/FightingStats. That's where we post all of our bets, our long shots, and things like that. So none of the prop bets are out right now. I do believe that Islam Makhachev round -300. I think that sounds about right in terms of where the line should be. And then I'll get into the prop lines as soon as they come out. But I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev as my pick to win there, retain the belt at UFC 311. Again, if you like this type of content, like and subscribe. But my name is Art C, and this is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Art C. If you like this type of content, make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. In 2024, we are up over 118 units. That's $58,000 at $500 units. We are using our exclusive UFC stats, not available anywhere else. I'm telling you, it gives us a huge edge over our competition, helps us make money long term. So come join us today, patreon.com/FightingStats. That's where we put all of our bets, our best bets, our shoot for the moon parlays. You can visit us also on our website, FightingStats.com, for all of our stats there. We have a lot of new tools coming out. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching.